Water. It can be found practically everywhere, and it's a good thing because every living thing depends on it for life. Not only do humans need it for the inside of our bodies, but we also need it to cook with, and we need to clean our houses and wash our bodies, wash our clothes, and grow our vegetables. We need it to cool our drinks, and also, it's pretty awesome to have fun in it, such as swimming and playing in it. The animals need it, the land needs it, the whole entire earth needs it. Basically, we need it for life. We absolutely cannot live without it. But what is this strange substance? The chemical compounds are hydrogen and oxygen, but how did these two natural chemicals come together in their perfect formation and be the answer to life itself for us and our planet? Today's episode, we will be talking about water and its hidden unique properties according to the author and scientist, Dr. Masaru Emoto, in his book titled The Hidden Messages in Water. Welcome to Rise and Transcend, your go-to podcast for personal growth and self-improvement. I'm your host, Michelle O'Donnell, and in this podcast, I'll share with you tools that have helped me deal with stress and overcome anxiety. Also, I'll help you shift your mindset so that you can shed those beliefs that are no longer serving you so that you can live a happier, more peaceful life. I'm so happy that you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back. So today's episode is inspired by the book, The Hidden Messages in Water by Dr. Masaru Emoto. I've heard of his experiments here and there throughout the years, but I've never read his book until recently. And I must tell you that it's incredible. And I have a newfound respect and excitement about water. Yes, plain old water. Or is it plain water? Well, we shall see. But before I get into what Dr. Emoto discovered, let's talk about the characteristics of water and why we need it so much. The chemical compounds are 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. The assembled compound itself resembles a triangle, and water can be found in 3 states, as we're all aware. It can be found in the liquid state, steam, and frozen. It's a sticky substance in the sense that it clings to things, although it feels clean and refreshing to us. I would like to know what your favorite thing is about water. Let me know by emailing or messaging me. I'd love to hear from you. Would you like to know some interesting facts about water that you might not know? Well, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, water is called the universal solvent because it dissolves more substances than any other liquid. This means that whatever substance that we put in water, it gets dissolved, which is an interesting theory for homeopathic remedies. Also, when water goes through the ground or through our bodies, it takes along the valuable chemicals and minerals and nutrients. The water molecule is highly cohesive, and that means that the molecules attract to one another. And they're also adhesive, which means that the molecules bond to each other. And those are 2 different things, believe it or not. Both cohesion and adhesion make the water molecule a sticky substance that I mentioned earlier. Water also becomes a conductor once it starts dissolving substances around it. Water has a high heat index. It absorbs a lot of heat before it begins to get hot. This is why water is valuable to industries, and it's also a great resource for your radiator in your car. It's also why it takes longer to heat up near sea levels versus high altitudes. Water also has a very high surface tension. In other words, water is sticky and elastic, and it tends to clump together in drops rather than spread out in a thin film. Surface tension is responsible for the capillary action, which allows water and its dissolved substances to move through the roots of plants and through our tiny blood vessels in our bodies. Speaking of all this water, did you know that we humans, on average, 70% water? Yes, us. We need this water to be at our optimum health, which is why we need to replenish that volume so frequently. In addition to what we just learned about water, here are also some facts about why our body needs water. It's a vital nutrient to the life of every cell in our bodies. It regulates our internal body temperature by sweating and respiration. The carbohydrates and proteins that our bodies use as food are metabolized and transported by water in our bloodstream. It assists in flushing waste from our bodies through urination, and it acts as a shock absorber for our brain, our spinal cord, and the fetus. It also forms our saliva and lubricates our joints. So we've talked about the unique characteristics of water and why it's so essential for our bodies, but we haven't mentioned the water cycle of the planet. That is also vital. Did you know that the Earth is mostly water in regards to what little land there is? Do you remember what we learned in school about the water cycle? That cycle starts with the clouds dumping rain or snow on the planet, and then the water sinks in the earth and fills up the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, and the creeks, and the wells, and the aquifers, and the Earth's core itself. And then it evaporates and goes back up into the atmosphere. But where did that water come from when the Earth was formed and was a hot, molten, gassy mess? Well, according to Dr. Emoto, and not only him, but I read this on NASA recently myself, that there is a theory that water came from the comets in space. When the comets hit our atmosphere, it melted into water, which is how it got into the clouds and traveled to the Earth and provides water to the surface of our Earth. Once on the surface, it sinks into the ground, supplying all the water needed underground to rise again to the surface. And apparently, comets are still doing so today. So basically, our water is not of this world. It's from outer space. How do you feel about that? Does that give you goosebumps? Does that knowledge fill you up with wonder and awe? I know it does me. Did you know that in ancient times they used to deeply respect this life-giving substance? They would make sure not to waste it and would reuse it when appropriate. They had stories about it and taught the next generation to respect it. Water was a very labor-intensive exercise to obtain. It was so very valuable. Perhaps that is why they had water gods and goddesses and had so much respect for it. That's in stark contrast to today, where we don't even think of water and where it comes from or what it is. To us, it just comes out of the faucet, and it should be never-ending. But we don't appreciate it. We just take it for granted. We certainly are not mindful of water, its use and specialness. Next up, we'll dive into Dr. Emoto's experiments and what he discovered in water that is such a vital lesson for us today. First, let's hear from our sponsor of this podcast, our Sanctuary, my monthly membership program that offers support, mindfulness practices, and tools to handle everyday life and stress. In today's fast-paced, stress-filled, technology-driven world, it's easy to feel disconnected from both mind and body. Our membership program is designed to bring balance back into your life, offering weekly themes, video messages, affirmations, tips, journaling, meditation, breathwork, and most importantly, a supportive community. Join my monthly membership program, Our Sanctuary, to reconnect, heal, and thrive every day. Visit my website at michelleodonnell.net/our-sanctuary. Can't wait to see you there. Welcome back to the show, where we are finally getting into what Dr. Emoto discovered through his experiments on water. You would think that we had all the answers about water by now, but Dr. Emoto was looking into the answers to the world's problems. And the one thing that everything had in common was water. So what is in the water? Dr. Emoto was involved in research of the measurement of wave fluctuations in water. So water was the medium he studied before his biggest discovery. He frequently read articles in scientific journals on experiments done on water, and he was quite intrigued by the field of study called homeopathy in the treatment of illness. In that field of study, he learned that water is a transporter of energy, and the concept of dilution of the very substance that caused illness in the water was also the cure. Dr. Emoto's theory on this was that instead of the effect of the matter being used to get rid of the symptoms, the information of the matter was copied to the water, and that is what canceled out the information of the symptoms. Interesting indeed. So, Dr. Emoto came to the conclusion that water had the ability to copy and memorize information. And one day he had a thought pop into his mind about snowflakes, and had this undeniable urge to start experimenting with ice crystals. He said it was a thing that he just could not stop doing, and he was obsessed with it. At first, they experimented with tap water, and then natural water from the earth itself. Eventually, they experimented with the effects of music on water, and then the written words exposed to water. For tap water, the results were disappointing because tap water is usually treated with chlorine, which destroys the structure of water. Not a single complete crystal was formed from the tap water. However, water samples from natural springs and underground rivers formed complete crystals. When the water was exposed to classical music, the crystals were well formed and defined. Heavy metal music, however, resulted in fragmented and malformed crystals. For the written words, the results of positive words formed beautiful crystals, and water exposed to insults formed fragmented crystals, such as the results of heavy metal music. Commands didn't fare any better than the negative words, but if you wrote "let's do it" instead of "do it," then the crystals formed nicely. Other people have tried these same experiments with similar results. One person went so far as to have 3 control groups of positive words, negative words, and the third group they completely ignored. Guess what? The water that was ignored did not grow any crystals at all. So the negative word group actually made out better. At least they had fragments of crystals, although not fully formed. So the results are that the vibration of good words had a positive effect, and the vibration of negative words had the power to destroy, according to Dr. Emoto. This not only affects the water, but also us humans, who have up to 70% of water in us. And not only does it affect us, but it affects the world. Dr. Emoto discovered that the best words were words of gratitude and love, in that order. The water responded to those vibrations the best, and that they formed the most beautiful of all the crystals formed. So words have an enormous influence on us personally, us as a collective, and also the universe. Do we want to shine or be malformed? It's up to us. We can change things if we have that intention. So we should treat all with gratitude, kindness, and love. Everything in this world, including living things, are made up of and respond to vibrations. The more positive the vibration, the better we feel. So for optimal health of us as humans and all living things, including the earth and the universe, it's so important to be mindful of it all in a positive light. I hope this episode has changed your perspective on water. I know it has me. Until next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Rise and Transcend. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, comment, and leave a review. Keep your spirits high, your mind sharp, and never stop chasing those dreams. See you next Monday.